The marble spins again. Listen closely. This is Dead Air Theater. Rain poured in heavy sheets, turning the street into a black mirror. Lydia Hale moved through it without an umbrella, the water crawling under her collar and pulling at the hollow of her throat. The wrought iron gates appeared out of the mist like the frame of a dream or a trap. A man waited just inside, tall, severe. His charcoal overcoat looked cut from something more rigid than fabric. His dark hair drawn back from a face lined not by age, but by precision, silver threaded neatly at his temples like an afterthought. "Miss Hale," he said, inclining his head. "You've come."
You made it sound like I didn't have a choice.
His mouth curved faintly. "Everything's a choice, Miss Hale. My name is Edmund Varrick. Collector, curator, custodian, I suppose. This," he gestured to the towering brick building behind him, "is my museum." There was no sign, no address, just the building itself, rising with an authority that suggested it had always been there. Waiting. Inside, the air was warm but bone dry, carrying a faint metallic tang beneath the scent of aged wood and varnish. Gaslit sconces shed pools of amber light along paneled walls, leaving much of the space in shadow. The first gallery was narrow, lined with glass cases that reached to Lydia's shoulders. Inside were objects, each solitary, each heavy with the kind of history most people would rather forget. "I arrange my collection chronologically. Violence has its eras, its fashions. One must follow the lineage to understand the legacy." He gestured to a splintered fragment of wood, carefully displayed on velvet. Lizzie Borden, 1892. Fragment of axe handle, retrieved from the Borden house. An object simple enough to lean against any hearth. Yet this one struck bone, cracked skull. Lizzie's crime fascinates because it straddles two ages, the domestic Victorian daughter and the new century of brutality. One household, two corpses, and the whisper that women could kill with as much vigor as men.
She must have hated them. Or loved them too much. I wonder which makes the arm swing harder.
"You've studied them?" They moved on. A violin with a broken string. H. Holmes, 1896. Played in the parlor of the murder castle to mask the sounds from the hidden rooms. Holmes orchestrated death as music. He was not just content to kill, he staged it. His parlor filled with melody while his victims gasped through hidden walls. The violin remembers. Do you hear it? Even silence has a resonance.
And do you think they knew? The ones trapped in the walls. Do you think they recognized the song was for them?
Recognition is irrelevant. The music was for Holmes. Varrick paused, and his eyes found hers. And you, Miss Hale, you understand the weight object of a hand pressed to flesh. You once held a knife against someone who should have protected you, did you not? She tensed, but said nothing. Your father, he murmured, as though reading her memory in the air between them. The two women you loved most, and yourself, defending against what should not have been necessary. Such acts leave stains that linger longer than blood.
I killed him.
They investigated you. They found you blameless, celebrated you as a survivor. Next, a frayed rope coil. Earl Leonard Nelson, 1927. The gorilla killer. Used in his final murder. Rope is honest, Miss Hale. It speaks through bruises. Strangulation requires patience. A conversation between murderer and victim. Every second drawn long. Nelson left his dialogue written on their throats. A cracked shaving mug followed. Albert Fish, 1934. Used to lure children into conversation at tenement boarding houses. Fish was not just content to kill. He sought innocence, devoured it. This mug, so plain, once rested in his hand as he smiled, as he spoke. Harmless porcelain that witnessed unspeakable appetites. Objects do not forget.
Nor do the ones left behind.
They passed a grim display, a belt, crude and stiffened. Ed Gein, 1957. Fashioned from tanned strips of human skin. Gein was a craftsman. Where others saw horror, he saw raw material. He reupholstered his world in the dead. Chairs, lampshades, clothing, each an experiment in turning flesh into furniture. He was not insane, Miss Hale. He was industrious. The line between madness and industry is much thinner than people like to believe.
So you call it industry. Others call it sickness.
Sickness is only industry without discipline, Miss Hale. Varrick's hand hovered near the glass, reverent. This belt is more than leather. It is a transformation, an assertion that the body itself is a medium. They turned to a brightly colored scrap. John Wayne Gacy, 1978. Fragment of clown costume seized from his home. Gacy understood masks. The grease paint, the red smile, the suit of bright colors, each a costume of concealment. He entertained children by day and buried them beneath his floorboards by night. The duality was his art, Miss Hale. This scrap still smells faintly of the grease paint, faintly of rot. Two lives stitched together by deception. A small locket rested next, delicate against dark velvet. Inside, a curl of blonde hair. Ted Bundy, 1978. Removed from victim's body post-mortem. Bundy cherished his trophies, as I do. But his were impermanent and fragile. Locks of hair decay and photographs fade. He collected like a child gathering seashells, never understanding that seashells crumble. I preserve. That is the difference between obsession and legacy, you see.
Some things aren't meant to last. Sometimes that's the point.
And yet here you stand. Once you kill, Miss Hale, the space you occupy in the world changes. It is something that cannot be undone. Finally, in the center of the room, a glass cylinder, Within it, a human hand preserved in fluid, nails yellowed, fingers curled as if still clutching. Richard Ramirez, 1989. Executed 2013. Hand severed post-mortem. Acquired by third-party collector. Ramirez was a madman that terrorized a nation. He did not desire merely blood. He inhaled the fear itself, the panic of a room, the shriek of a victim, the gasp of a nation. Even now, his hand hums with an appetite. Look closely at the nails, Miss Hale. Each a blade, each a testament. Executed, yes, but hunger never truly dies.
And if hunger never dies, what happens to those of us who feel it's still living?
Then I think, Miss Hale, that they belong in a museum. Varrick turned to her, eyes glinting. Don't you see, Miss Hale? Murderers vanish, victims rot, but the objects endure. They are the truest witnesses, the truest remains. You yourself have walked that threshold already, have you not?
I survived.
Survivor, yes. But survival does not erase the act. It only makes it ready for preservation. I believe that's why you are here. They reached the final hallway. The carpet was thick, muting their steps. The walls were lined with framed newspaper articles, mugshots, trial sketches. Varrick's hand hovered just above her elbow, guiding her. At the end stood a tall oak door. The brass key he produced was worn smooth from years of turning. The lock gave a slow, satisfying click. This is the heart of my collection. The room beyond was vast and cold. Light came from floor fixtures, casting an upward glow that turned the space into a cathedral of glass. Dozens of boxes. Each held a young woman, perfectly still, perfectly preserved. Some were posed in repose, hands folded like sleeping saints. Others stood, eyes open, as though caught mid-thought. Their skin was pale, flawless, untouched by time. Hair brushed to silk, clothes unrumpled as though dressed that very morning. A faint condensation marked the glass nearest to her, as if something inside had only just breathed. These are my trophies, taken at the moment they were most themselves, before the world could spoil them. Each one a living artifact, curated at her most complete.
The rain came down so hard, it blurred the street into a black mirror. I walked straight through it. No umbrella, no hood. Let it soak me. Let it crawl down my spine. By the time I reached the gates, I felt half drowned already. The iron rose out of the mist like a snare, tall and ornate, waiting for me. And he was there, just inside. Varrick. His presence startled me, though I'd known he would be. Tall, sharp, his coat cut from something more rigid than fabric. Silver edged his hair in deliberate strokes. A face too precise to call aged, too measured to be kind.
Miss Hale,
he said. My name sounded rehearsed on his lips.
You've come.
I swallowed the shiver that wanted to run through me. You made it sound like I didn't have a choice. That faint smile.
Everything's a choice, Miss Hale. My name is Edmund.
I wanted to ask why me, but instead I followed him.
Custodian, I suppose.
The building behind the gates loomed without address or
Is
sign,
my museum.
as though it had been here forever, waiting for me specifically. Inside, the air was dry, suffocating, varnish and wood layered over something metallic, blood hidden under polish. Shadows swallowed the ceiling, the sconces only light enough to keep me close to him. Glass cases lined the first hall. Relics, artifacts, each one pulsed like a wound beneath the lamps. He began to speak. His voice was low, deliberate, practiced. My attention slid from his words to the cases themselves. A cracked shaving mug, a frayed rope, a violin with a broken string. I knew these stories. Not from him, but from the nights I had pored over pages and clippings, fascinated by the way blood stained history as deeply as ink. I recognized their names: Fish, Nelson, Holmes. My heart stirred with something like kinship.
You studied them.
He said. The words made my chest tighten. How does he know? What else does he see in me? I didn't answer. He didn't need me to. His gaze was already dissecting me. And then his voice shifted, no longer abstract, but personal. My father, my mother, my sister, his knife, my knife. I froze. He knew. He knew everything. I killed him. I heard myself say, low as if confessing in church. He didn't flinch.
They investigated you. They found you blameless, celebrated you as a survivor.
The word stung. Survivor. As though surviving meant clean hands. As though surviving meant untouched. But I had been touched. Marked. A darkness had been pressed into me that night, and it had never left. And more than once, I had let it guide me. Faces that blurred together. Names I never asked. The hush of alleys, the heat of blood. I had killed since, and I wondered if he could smell it on me, the way smoke clings long after the fire is out. We moved on. The cases grew stranger, more intimate. A wedding dress stained faintly brown at the hem. A set of false teeth with gold fillings. A silver locket with a curl of blonde hair inside.
Bundy cherished his
Bundy's.
trophies, as
I stared too long, too hungrily. He spoke of trophies, of crumbling legacies. I thought of my own, not physical, but etched deep into me, memory as keepsake. The hunger whispering when the nights were quiet enough. We passed into another hall. His words brushed my ears.
Once you kill Miss Hale, the space you occupy in the world changes. It is something that cannot be undone.
My silence screamed agreement. He must have known. A glass cylinder held a preserved hand, nails long and yellowed.
Executed, yes,
Ramirez, his voice named.
but hunger never truly dies.
And if hunger never dies? And mine never had. Those of us who feel it still living.
Then I think, Miss Hale, that they belong in a museum.
The last corridor was thickly carpeted, muffling our steps. Headlines and sketches lined the walls, killers staring out from frames. Their eyes felt too familiar. At the end, the oak door loomed. His hand produced a brass key, worn smooth, and the lock opened with a slow click.
This is the heart of my collection.
The air inside was colder, sterile. Rows of glass boxes gleamed, each lit from below so the bodies inside glowed faintly like saints under stained glass. Women preserved perfectly, posed as if sleeping or staring, or caught in the final moment of thought. Their hair combed, their clothes immaculate, eternal. I should have screamed. I only stepped closer. My hand pressed to the glass, breath misting its surface. For an instant, I swore the girl inside breathed with me. Varrick's voice filled the space, but not as before. The cadence was gone. The performance, gone. What came now was flat, monotone, stripped bare of all artifice.
You understand, Miss Hale.
And I realized this was him. The true Varrick. Not the careful curator, not the theatrical collector. This hollow, detached voice was his core. His mask had fallen away, and I was staring into the void behind it.
You understand, don't you? You understand the taking. You carry the stain already, Miss Hale. That is why I invited you here. Not to view the collection, but to join it.
My chest tightened. I couldn't look away. I saw myself in that void. Then, a sharp sting. Metal slid into my neck. Cold fire spread beneath my skin. My legs weakened. The glass boxes swam in my vision. At the far end of the row, I saw one that was empty, velvet pristine, glowing faintly in the cold light. My reflection wavered there, pale, waiting. And then, nothing.
Thank you for listening to Dead Air Theater. Today's episode, Museum, was written and produced by Edward Baker. Lydia was narrated and played by Stephanie Betschart. If you liked the story, please consider following the show on Spotify or joining the Discord via the link tree in the description. Every listener helps me keep the stories coming. We'll see you next Saturday for part 1 of La Viande Noire.